The previous basket is under review.
The absolute machine that is Houston basketball is churning right along. Maybe a few bumpy moments there in late November, early December, playing not quite to the standard we expect, fell all the way to an absolutely shocking 11th on Ken Palm. But the Cougars are back, 17-1, winners of 11 in a row, 5-0 in the Big 12. Somewhat creating some separation in terms of who the best team in the league is, and starting to look much more like your traditional Kelvin Sampson team defensively. Obviously, there were some question marks about their youth. I mean, Kelvin Sampson quite straight up basically said multiple times during the players era and whatnot, we're playing our worst basketball. Like, we hope our worst basketball is in November and not in March. I appreciate the philosophy, but people like to panic, and I do think there were some real questions at points, especially with Kristanak, less so with Kingston Flemings. Like, would it all come together? Would it come together for Isaiah Harwell? Would it come together even for some of these other less hyped younger role players like Mercy Miller and Chase McCarty? Could this group kind of piece everything together the way that recent Houston teams have? And it certainly feels like they are on their way to doing that. But Foss, the question, as always with Houston, as they have been on this half decade of dominance in college basketball, do they have the formula to break through in the NCAA tournament? Not to say they've been disappointing in the Big Dance. They've advanced to national championship games, Final Four, Sweet 16s. They have not gotten over the hump. Part of that's luck. Part of that is partially, I think, a criticism of the formula, especially offensively. And I think one of the interesting things with this Houston group is the things that maybe they're a little bit different in that could help, but also maybe some of the same old struggles that could hold them back.
Sometimes the way too early type rankings that come out after a national championship are just kind of like farcical, or they're just, people putting out content just to do it. And people are, especially now in the way that the portal is and with international recruiting, seems like it's more dart throws than ever. But I feel like when it came to Houston looking like a team that would be at the top of the country on these way too early, like it made sense. They had already had a 5-star freshman expected to do big things, and they are really getting good play from a freshman, just maybe not the one everyone expected at the time. But they also are bringing back some of the front court toughness and rebounding and production, and lots of the perimeter play that was really good. So it was one of those things that from the moment that Florida ended up winning, it still looked like, okay, well, like Houston's probably going to be in the mix for this next year. And that is what appears to be happening right now. So it does make them both like very interesting to talk about and also like not as interesting to talk about, because at this point, it's not a question of like, what is the identity of this team? What do they look like? And like, we know because they keep getting there. It does come down to, can they make that final step? And I've certainly got my own questions about whether or not the style of play can do it. But it is also funny because everyone who's also watched our show for a year will know that I have been very critical about Houston's offense. And I didn't think it was good enough to win a championship. But, I can say that, but it's like they were one shot away, or whatever you want to say, a bounce, a shot, whatever you want to say. Like they were right there from winning a tournament where there was a lot of teams that people felt very strongly about at the top. So it's also one of the things that like it challenges my views of basketball and how you win. And this year I think is going to be no different, especially when you see how good they've been.
Yeah, well, let's start with their defense, which is predictably elite as usual, top 3 in the country. Technically, by adjusted rating, it is their worst defense since 2018, if I'm reading this correct. But that is obviously a measure of how great they've been, and also a measure of how much better offenses are getting. You could look across the board. Efficiency numbers are up offensively. You would expect Houston's defensive efficiency to, year to year look a little bit worse. But that being said, I still think a lot of the same principles in terms of the way they turn you over, the way that they make every shot difficult, the way they make every pass difficult. All those things are still the same, and a big reason that Houston's floor, when you talk about these preseason rankings, is always maybe the highest in college basketball.
Yeah, Houston has had such an impact on college basketball with the way that they've aggressively guarded pick and rolls. It's something that so many teams have adapted. We're seeing it more than ever. And I mean, at the root of it is Houston, I think, and so many people that still watch a lot of what they do to kind of implement their defense. But one kind of tweak I actually really like is it used to be when they were blitzing ball screens, they'd always have these really high hands to try to steal that skip pass, make it really hard for guards to throw it over the top. But now you see them coming in with these really low hands because they know that everyone tries to hit that pocket pass against them. So you're seeing that they have kind of adjusted these like little micro skills of, okay, we're now going out to blitz. We're getting lower. We're getting a nice low hand from the big. You see how low they get. And as ball handlers try to hit that short roll, there's just nothing really there. And you're still seeing a lot more steals, but a lot of them are happening like right at the point of the screen, as opposed to all these ones on the backside they used to get. Now, the other thing that's kind of really notable is they also used to have a lot of these guys that would like really fly around and block shots aggressively, but you're seeing defensively, yes, they still have some of the shot blocking that allows them to still be in decent position if there is a cutter hit, but you're also seeing, again, just really good wall ups. They don't foul. They keep their hands up, and teams that just get so worn down by how they play against Houston, sometimes they expect contact and they miss. And that's something that's really interesting as well. And I think the last thing that is really noticeable about this team, it's like, look at the way they guard in transition and these savvy guards too, that can use their hand to swat something away, or the athleticism for someone to go get a block from behind. So Houston will really aggressively offensive rebound, which sometimes hurts them in transition defense. But even if their opponent gets ahead of steam in transition, they're either reluctant, they start to hear footsteps behind them, or these guards will come and poke something away. And they've also just been tremendous in transition defense, which is something they haven't actually always been, just because they're willing to give up a little bit in transition defense for the offensive rebounding. So still a ton to like, and a couple of changes from what we've normally seen from Houston.
Yeah, I mean, number one on the Houston front, I would say, obviously playing freshmen and adjusting that to their system is a challenge. But I think both guys are great fits in different ways. Certainly for Flemings, he has elite hands. And I think you see that some in the transition clips where he's just going and grabbing your ball. I think you see the same thing and just in the half court and the way he guards. The way he gets in the passing lanes, he's great instincts. Kingston Flemings is a very good defender. I think Chris Sinak is not a particularly good defender at this stage, but in Houston's system, he can be very effective because think about this. Chris Sinak is basically playing the minutes that Juwan Roberts played last year. Juwan Roberts was listed at 6'7". He was probably like 6'5.5". Chris Sinak is 6'11" with like 7'3" wingspan. He's ginormous. Like, he has huge long arms, and Jojo Tugler has like the biggest go-go gadget arms in the country, right? He has like ridiculous wingspan. And so when you're sending those two bodies to go blitz all day and you're just putting arms in passing lanes, like, you're just going to get tips. You're going to get deflections. You're going to get steals. And I think that's been one of the bigger adjustments, or not even adjustments, but biggest things that Houston can hang its hat on. It's like, hey, we get you're going to screw up sometimes, Sinak, but like, just fly around and use your length and use your athleticism and be disruptive. Because I think at the core of Houston's defense, right, it's less about elite scheme execution and more about absurd effort. And I think if you execute on that side of things will work itself out. And I think that's why you've seen Chris Sinak sort of turn a corner a little bit, play a little bit more minutes more comfortably here of late in bigger moments. Again, I still think it will be touch and go at times. But all things considered, I think the adjustment has been pretty solid. And I think when you look at his numbers compared to, other freshmen, I mean, you look at his KenPom comps. I mean, his 5 KenPom comparisons are freshman years of Reggie Perry, Trey Lyles, Jarris Walker, Bobby Portis, and Azuolas Tubelis. Like, he is putting up kind of NBA type numbers already, and the track record is strong there. So certainly buy that they'll defend at an elite level, just as they have throughout Kelvin's tenure. The questions do come on the offensive side, where they are still incredibly 2-point jumper reliant. If you look at, I was looking at Torvik earlier, they are 365th out of 365 in close to percentage. They're 362nd in 2-point distance, which is the new KenPom stat. Their synergy numbers that would say the same thing. Like, by every measure, Houston is the most mid-range oriented team in college basketball. particularly among the best teams in the country. And that is a fascinating dichotomy with the fact that the sport in large part is trending very heavily towards kind of the rim and three approach of the Alabamas and the Floridas and you know, even older school coaches, I feel like for the most part have leaned into that philosophy. Houston certainly has not in a lot of ways. It's still effective, you know, statistically. They're a top 20 offense. They've been a top 20 offense pretty much every year of this run, but those efficiency numbers are driven much more by offensive rebounding and not turning the ball over than they are by offensive efficiency. And I do wonder what that looks like in an individual game setting in March.
It's really fascinating because it is a strength of these guards that are really, really talented, particularly in isolation to get those shots. And luckily we are seeing a higher 3-point rate. And you can see that like Houston is so willing once the ball gets moving to like make the extra pass, find a 3-point shooter. And last year they shot a good percentage from three, but they didn't take many. This year they are taking more while still shooting a good percent. And like, that's awesome. And when I watch these clips, I'm like, you could do this more instead of always hunting these floaters and these mid-range jump shots, because like, this is not a situation where they aren't getting great shots. They're settling. Like they are hunting these floaters. They are hunting these mid-range shots. And here's the thing, like they hit them at an incredible rate, like relative to the rest of college basketball, whether it's like Uzan, whether it's Kingston Flemings, Emmanuel Sharp, like these guys can really make tough mid-range jump shots. They can make floaters at a high rate, but making those at a high rate still equates to like 0.85 points per possession. And, you know, Kevin, like it's kind of funny. There's a lot of like big bodied running backs in the NFL that for a lot of years, there's been jokes where it's like, if you need 3 yards, they can get you 3 yards. If you need 7 yards, they'll get you 3 yards. That's kind of the way I feel about Houston's offense, where it's like, if you need 0.85 points per possession, they'll get you 0.85 points per possession. If you need 1.1 points per possession, they'll get you 0.85 points per possession, because we saw this in the national championship game last year, where the road to Florida's national championship was paved with bricks from the mid-range from Houston. And it's one of those things where if we get in a situation where it's a tie game at the end and Houston needs someone to go hit a tough shot in isolation, I'm not sure there's like a more equipped team to do that with Uzan, with Emmanuel Sharp, with Kingston Flemings, like even Sinak, if you want, like these guys can all hit those shots at a really high level if it gets to that point. But like they maybe don't get to that point because they're just still getting like 0.85 points per possession, or they're hoping for an offensive rebound. So that's like the interesting paradox to me, where it's like this very skill that also hurts their efficiency because they hunt it so much when it's not the most efficient shot. Like that could really hurt them. But also at the same time, if it comes to a one possession game, like, yeah, I would rather have them shooting a 43% mid-range jump shot than a 34% catch and shoot three in like a, 3-second left tie game scenario. So that's also why I'm just like so fascinated. What happens if they get another national championship game? Like if there was a situation against Florida where they needed just like an ISO pull up too, like they have the guys for it, but they might just put themselves a little bit too far behind the 8 ball by taking all these inefficient shots beforehand.
Yeah, it's funny because they were in the exact spot. And like there are especially with the way he played in that tournament, there's almost no one I would have rather shoot that ball than like just give LJ Cryer the ball and go cook. And it didn't work out that way, obviously. And it's something they'll have to live with, and it probably, will haunt them forever in a lot of ways, but also fuel them. And look, I think the big picture of their offensive conversation is basically like, if you need a bucket, they can go get one. On the like very stretched out long term, like if you're looking on the super macro, yes, the fact that they don't turn the ball over, put the ball on the rim and offensive rebound gives their offense an incredibly high floor. And they are very good in individual possession. You need a basket, but they're not at all geared to have to like chase points in a lot of regards, right? Like if you're down 10 or 12, it's sort of remarkable again when you think about what Houston was able to do in the in the Final Four game against Duke. That was a shocking comeback for a team that is not geared to like go hit 3 threes and swing the game. Like that's not how they're meant to play. They're going to be deliberate offensively. They're going to take tough shots. And so, it's a fascinating angle. I do think it makes the road harder, no question. Like their style of play offensively hinders their ability to win the national championship. And I also think, quite frankly, that their mid-range, but that the numbers don't fully capture like their mid-range reliance because they know they're going to get so many of those shots back, right? Like unquestionably, it's a lot easier to justify taking tough twos as regular as they do if you know you're going to offensive rebound 38% of them, right? Like the points per possession is like that. Every tough two you take is infinitely better than a turnover. Is basically the best way of putting it. So keep shooting them. They have the players to do it, but it will always probably color my view of Houston in a tournament setting. And it remains to be seen whether it will cost them. But I do think where they're maybe a little different this year is they have really never had like a truly elite rim pressure guard, right? Last year's team, certainly not. Like Milos is not that. Cryer was a pull-up specialist, Sharps running off screens and shooting the ball. Jamal Shed was good. Jamal Shed was not like Jamal Shed was a great paint touch guy. Jamal Shed wasn't like a crazy rim finisher or rim shooter. Marcus Sasser, same thing. Kingston Flemings is an elite rim shooter and rim shot creator. I'm trying really hard not to say something weird as I go through this, but you know, like elite at getting to the rim, elite at scoring at the rim. Kingston Fleming, no question about it, right? And that to me changes their ceiling completely. Like I think about the Tennessee game when they lost, like their offense was dead for 20 minutes. And eventually they sort of looked around and were like, hey, when we give the ball to Kingston, we score every trip. Like we get a paint touch, we get a good shot, either from him scoring at the rim or from him distributing for shooters. And like that completely changed their offense. And I wonder how much come March, Houston's offense is literally just give it to Kingston Flemings and get him out of the way. I mean, he already has more baskets at the rim this season than any of Houston's guards from last season's team.
Wow.
Like that's ridiculous. I mean, it's mid-January that we're talking about this. So I'm going to put on the film and let you cook, Fawcett.
Yeah, I mean, that's where these plays are about to see become even more valuable because of, like you said, he's really the only one getting there. And what I think is so kind of magical about his game and why he's probably going to make a whole lot of money in the NBA is like, not only can he create rim touches, can he get to the cup by just having a really quick first step, but he can also do it by changing speeds. And a lot of times guys are really quick, they're really sudden with their first step, or there's guys who are like not super athletic, so they have to have good changes of pace. Like he does both. And it's absolutely incredible to see. And I really like a lot of those transition clips because like, honestly, I know a lot of people talk about like, oh, you get the ball, you get a defense rebound, like go push it up the floor as quickly as you can. I kind of like if you've got a guy like Kingston Flemings, like Kingston, go until someone stops you. And to see that as well with some of these clips, whether it's in isolation, again, if they need someone to go get one, he can do it and he can get to the rim. He doesn't have to settle. He can make the pull up if he needs to, but he doesn't always settle. And then he's also someone's like, oh, you got a ball screen, no problem. Put the defender in jail. Gortat screen. It's easiest 2 points of the night. Like whether it's like, oh, split a hedge, like no problem, finish through contact. Like these clips are spectacular and made even more important by, again, the way that his teammates are not putting that same kind of pressure on the rim. And a lot of these skills I think are going to be extremely, extremely valuable in March. And then I also think that defensively, so much of that aggressive Houston defense, it's a lot of it's really centered, especially in the pick and roll, on these bigs that they've had that are long, that are mobile, and how, you know, they do have to get out there and hedge and trap, which is tough. But the guards have to actually also, you know, they got to get back in front. They've got to be disruptive with their hands. And that's where he's tremendous as well. And I think too, to see some of the guys that he's been able to lock up, some of the athleticism he also has on display to kind of fit that ethos of like needing to fly around and make stuff happen. And he's had a lot of difficult checks and he's still like always able to come up with deflections, come up with blocks, be that like both stable defender when they need, but also someone who can just go and make a play. So yeah, this is just someone who I personally didn't hear enough about in the off season. And it's just been a massive treat. Every time I watch him, I think I like him even more.
Yeah. I mean, no question. He's a stud. The other thing I think that's fascinating with Houston, and I think adds to the Flemings conversation, is they just do not have the post-scoring presence that they had a year ago, right? Like last year, they could throw the ball to Roberts on the block and Sanak is not doing that. They did that with Tugler a lot early in the year. There were some ugly possessions. And so I do worry about them in the NCAA tournament in that regard. Like, I talk about the 3-yard running back. I mean, the Juwan Roberts post-ups were like the epitome of that. Like they were by no means efficient basketball, but like they had to go to it at times, and it would get them a shot on the rim. And I think there's going to be time when they are just like incredibly reliant on Kingston to go get shots, and that's a lot to put on a freshman. But really, I mean, outside of the big three, he's been as good as anyone. You could argue he's been as good as those big three freshmen in the country, and I would also say, like, he's proven like no moment's been too big for him. Like there's never been a spot where I've been like, oh, it seems like Kingston's kind of flustered. Like he's just the ultimate gamer. So I'm really excited to see what he does, and I think he totally changes their ceiling because he is the best guard that they've had. Like Sasser was a phenomenal college basketball player. Shed was a phenomenal college basketball player. Neither of them, Rob Gray. I mean, you could go down the list. They have not had a guy that does everything that Kingston Fleming does at the level he does it. And getting that truly elite point guard totally changes the way you think about this group. I think it changes what their offense can look like in March. I think they're a team that I think most years has had a low ceiling. It's kind of an unfair thing to say about a top 5 team, but like they hit their ceiling early. And I don't think that's the case with this group. I think with Flemings continuing to potentially emerge, Harwell and Sanak really taking strides, like I think there's a chance we look at this team in March and talk about it completely differently than we talk about it now. And we talk about it now differently than we talk about it in November. So I'm a believer. I really am. But I do think like the question is very real. Can you be this mid-range reliant and win a national championship? I think in a weird way, last year's Houston proves you can, but that it's going to be harder, that it is maybe a hindrance. And I think it's truly like, it hasn't been talked about nearly enough. I think like, to me, it's like, it really is like, to me, one of the most fascinating sort of like intellectually stimulating ideas of like 2025, 2026 college basketball. Like that maybe the best program in the country is the most mid-range reliant team in the country. Like no one talks about that. I guess we are. So cheers. Stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Well, and I think what's even fascinating about it as well is if you were to look at last year's team and you were to say, okay, like they shoot a ton of mid-range and about average amount of shots at the rim, and then and they don't shoot a lot of threes. And then you looked forward and you said, okay, they're shooting a lot more threes. Your first instinct would probably be like, oh, well, they're probably shooting less mid-range, right? And it's like, no, they're shooting as many mid-range. They're actually just not taking shots at the rim. And even then, like we didn't talk with this, but like even about their like numbers of shots at the rim as a team, like so many of them are on offensive rebounds. If you were to take out offensive rebounds, say like how many first shots do they get at the rim? Like that number would look even crazier. And then if you took away Kingston, it would be even crazier. Like it is fascinating. And I think I am someone, like I will admit, if you looked at my bracket in each of the last 5 years, I think I have like Houston going out around early every single time. So I've certainly been somewhat of a detractor while also acknowledging that they seem like so upset proof because of the defense and the rebounding. So it always seems like they're going to be in that like second weekend and beyond. It's just always the question of like, I've always been lower on their ceiling. And I think when you look at this year, if you were to kind of start by looking last year and say, okay, they're a possession away from the national championship, and you say, okay, we've got a point guard that is a little bit more electric, a little bit more exactly what they need, and they've got multiple returners, and they're shooting more threes while maintaining efficiency. Like you can very easily talk yourself into why this is a national championship team. Like, because you can kind of make a reasonable argument that this is a better team than last year. I'm not saying it's for sure that they've like clear, but the argument is certainly there. And like you've mentioned with the freshmen that are continuing to just play better and better. And those guys will probably they're probably going to get like a little exponentially better throughout the year than they did last year. So there is a very compelling case for them to be the championship pick by many, if not like a consensus kind of national championship pick. But it's going to be a struggle for me. Like it flies in the face of what I think you need to do, and to win college basketball or basketball really at any level. So for that reason, I mean, I can't say that they're like my favorite team to watch in the country, but also like they're kind of my favorite team in the country to watch, because I find it, it challenges me for sure, which is not something that I would say about, I don't know, any other team in the country.
Yeah, it's truly a unique story in a lot of ways, and I'm excited to see the resolution this year. Certainly not the end of it, but because I think they will look somewhat like this even when Kelvin retires, whenever that is, with Kellen as their head coach. So we shall see. It'll be a lot of fun. We've got college game day in Lubbock this weekend for Texas Tech Houston, 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row, our scout team topic is playing Texas Tech that weekend. So good luck to the Cougs. But I certainly think they're going to be in the mix right at the top. So, Fawcett, any final notes before we sign off on this one?
No, I think I just tying it back to a previous video about BYU. I'm excited to see just that's what something that's great about the league is I think that we're going to see them against some different styles and see how they hold up. But I also feel like going back to last year and even our discussions with the national championship game, I don't know how happy a lot of Houston fans will be about some of the things I've said about the way they play basketball. So, but like I said, definitely a believer here.
Yeah. Also, I mean, I think you and I would both agree, like what Houston has built is objectively like the most impressive thing in college basketball over the time. Right. And it rivals the run from Gonzaga. It rivals the run, like, and I think we've become so normalized to it. It's beyond ridiculous. It's just like the fact that it also happens to fly in the face of like a lot of the things that like the trends in the sport. That's what makes it most fascinating to us. So I think that's why we wanted to tackle it. We will talk about it more as we go, I'm sure. And yeah, when Fawcett's bracket comes out, don't be surprised if maybe there's a little lower on the Cougs, regardless of what the narrative may be. So we will be back with Scout Team next week. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Basket on Review. Great independent college hoops home for college hoops junkies as we head down the stretch towards February and March. We look forward to doing that right alongside you guys. We'll see y'all next week.